Hello and welcome to another episode of Making Diablo clone in LISP. So today we are going to be continuing working on the sound effects. So on the last stream we tried to fix that little bug when the sound of the attack of some character was emitted right when the animation sequence has started and not when that animation sequence was ending, which should have been the case. So yeah, trying to fix that, I've had this nice idea of having the sound like settings in the sprite of the corresponding character. So for instance, if I have like this spider ant, this critter in the game, and it has the swing animation, or stance as I call it in the code, which I probably shouldn't. So this would have like on the ending, on the very last frame of the animation, it would have this property of sound with corresponding sound. So the sound would be one of the, let me just get back to that. So in resources there would be sounds, and one of those would be that sound. So here it is written as spider ant body swing, so here it is spider ant body swing. So yeah, this is a nice idea, but it's not ideal, because for instance I have this other, so yeah, wait a sec, I have different types of sprites. For instance, here this heroine, this character player, or sorry, player character. So this player character has different layers, and each layer corresponds to different weapon, and some layers would even later correspond to different like outfits. So it could be like the heavy bodysuit, or it could be just leather, like whatever cloth. Yeah, so the thing is, perhaps I would have I would want different sounds for different layers. For instance, I would definitely have different sound for a dagger swing and a great sword swing. So for dagger it would be just short, like, and for a great sword it would be like hard swoosh. Yeah, so I don't think it will work. I don't think this idea will work for that, because these cell properties, they are kinda the same for all layers. So let's just quickly test that. So if I set some property of 1, which is not totally correct, here in dagger swing, and then switch to short sword, oh, it is not here. Wait a sec, so I've been wrong here. That's interesting. Give me a sec. So perhaps I would just have to change my parser in code to actually have those different sounds, and this idea would work, which would be nice. Okay, let's see. So okay, perhaps I would press, yeah, Control Z. Yeah, and I would have that ability, but again, I had this different idea about the actual swings, because let's see. So I have this heroine. Oh yeah, and I have cloth swing, which again is not totally correct, because I would want different sounds, for instance, for a dagger, or well, for every other weapon. So I would want different attack sound for a dagger, different attack sound for a short sword, different sound for a long sword, etc. But let's just hear that one. Yeah, it's just swoosh. Yeah, and I would want that different, but for now, yeah, okay. So those properties are different for every layer. Let's see how I done that in the code. Okay, so I do parse this ASC prite file into this structure it represents, and I definitely should have something about that properties. So okay, let's see. No. How do I even read those? It should be somewhere in this file. So let's see. Load sprite layers. Yeah, frame data, I think it is called internally. So properties, user data, yeah, something like that. Sprite frame data, result. So result is an array of contents of hash tables. Yeah, that's that. So how do I read that? I go through all of the frames, and in each frame I go over the chunks, and for chunks I find that stuff, and then yeah, call with input from string, which like converts this from a string into a Lisp data structure, because well, actually those things like this one, it is the actual Lisp list. So it has it is a p list that has all of the different keys and values. So it is kind of key value storage. Yeah, right. So how do I get those different for every sprite? I mean, for every layer. For every layer in sprite. Okay, I think I would have to dig again into the ASC Prite file format. So I think I have somewhere the docs for that. Okay, let's just Google. Okay, I'll probably switch that to dark mode, and yeah, docs. So it was somewhere on GitHub, so let's search for that in URL, no, site github.com. Yeah, I think that might be it. Nope, that's the one. Yeah, that's the one. So let's search for that frame data or user data. Yeah, user data chunk. So we have a separate type of chunk for that. Insert this user data in the last red chunk. If we read a layer, this user data belongs to that layer. If we read a cell, it belongs to that cell, etc. Oh, so I could even have a user data for a layer. Oh, name mode. Yeah, I can. That's actually amazing. Yeah, and I think that's somehow a new feature in the ASC Prite. I think it wasn't even there in version 1.1, but it definitely is present in recent versions. So yeah, I don't really have any use for layer data for now, but I definitely have a use for cell data. Right, so user data chunk. Okay, let's switch back. User data, yeah, user data chunk. Here it is. Cell ID, text, blah blah blah. Okay, do I have cell ID here? No, I don't. It's interesting. If we read a layer, blah blah blah. If we read a cell. Right. Okay, first of all, I would have to remember how those chunks are organized inside of the file. So probably I want just print some of those chunks. Yeah, probably that one. Okay, let me just remember my own code. So frames. No, frames is another loop. For frame, make it a C frame and chunks. Yeah, so those chunks kind of belong to a frame, I think. Chunk header, red binary. Okay, chunk header and then red binary. I reckon I had some clause here for different types of chunks, but I can't quite recall how that works. Binary frame chunks. Okay, that's the count of chunks, and here's the empty array. And then we know beforehand the size of the chunks, and then this form returns, it should return a chunk. Virtual binary stream, I see, red chunk. Oh yeah, okay, I think that's how that works. So read chunk is a clause method, and it is specialized on different types of chunks, which are have like different integer IDs. Like this one has this 0x 2020, and this one has 2022. So yeah, so this rechunk returns, well, an actual chunk. So I think I would just print it somewhere here, like maybe, nope, maybe here. Print and then extra parentheses. So yeah, and then I think I would just load the game. It will be pretty like big amount of chunks, I think. Yeah, anyway, let's have a look. So yeah, quite big. Right, so we have I mean, I can look at, I can start looking right here. So we have different layers, layer chunks. Then we have a text chunk, which does what? From 0 to 5, idle 0. Okay, so that's the actual animation stance, or rather how I mark it. So I just create a tag that's actually a tag here. So you can create a new tag. And that's how I mark the different animation sequences, or stances as I call it still in the code. Tags. Then I have cell chunk. Okay, and quite big one, I should notice. Really big. Yeah, okay, hello. Yeah. This will take a little while. Oh, yeah, here we go. Again, the next chunk. So we apparently have a sequence of cell chunks, which makes sense. I think there would be 4 of them because the first tag or the first sequence has 4 frames in it. And this will take a little while. And by the way, it is still loading, which is funny. Okay, yeah, and the next cell chunk, and let's see what's next. The next cell chunk, come on, just end already. Another chunk, okay, and after that there should be something interesting. Come on. Oh, the next cell. Okay, that makes sense. Right, so how can I distinguish? Yeah, probably first of all I should stop this madness. Yeah, retry, abort. Yeah, abort, please. So, whoa, what? And it was discarded. Wow. Where was I? I think I probably should restart my LISP image, well, just in case. And yeah, how can I distinguish different properties for different cells in different layers? So the actual layers part here is important. So I think I do have some kind of global variable for a current layer. Do I though? Yeah, I do. I have layer ID. Awesome. So how that works? Rechunk. Yeah, right. I think I have. Oh, but had I a layer chunk though? I can't remember. Damn it! I would have to start it again. Wait. Yeah, I do have. Oh, I have layers, and they are all kinda in the same sequence. So it's not like I first have one layer and then all of its frames, and then second layer chunk and all of its cells, and then another layer. I have them all here. Yes, E layer chunk. Okay, let's stop. Wait. So that's a bit of a problem. Oh, but I do have layer ID in the chunk itself. I'm even wondering how do I do that. So where is the cell chunk? Cell chunk. So I just suspect it is written here explicitly. The future with height, pixel, cell type. Oh yeah, layer index, the first one. The very first field in this structure is the layer index, which is convenient because I can use that to fill in the new field in that user data. Okay, so let's just get the hands on that. So where's that user data chunk? Yeah, here we go. So in addition to cell ID, I would also have a layer ID, maybe even like the first field or the second. No, the first would be nice. Layer ID with default 0 and type obviously fixed num. So in the places where I do create that, make what would that be? User data chunk, and that's the only place here. So I would set. Oh, but for that I would have to index or somehow have access to the existing cells that are already read. Okay, give me a sec. So the first thing here would be layer ID with something like, I don't know. Okay, let's get back here later. So where would I have to get this layer ID? I think for that I would have to store all of the chunks that I already have read, and in those I would have to no, wait a sec. I think it could be done easier. I could just do kind of the same thing as with this cell ID and layer ID. I could just have a global variable which would correspond to the last cell layer being read. Yeah, that would be nice. But then again, I would have to be careful not to mix it with the layer user data chunk, if I'm even supporting that. Am I supporting that? Yeah, that would be on the upper level here, where I'm actually making sense out of those structures. Load sprite layers, where was that? Sprite stances. No, wait a sec. Oh yeah, load sprite frame data. So yeah, I'm going here through all of the things here. So yeah, I'm not really supporting it here. So maybe I should leave some to do comment here. Sprite frame data, yeah. User data. Yep. So layer ID, right? So the last cell chunk being read. Right chunk. So okay. What's its type? Cell chunk 2005. So yeah, here it is, and yeah. So I would have. Oh, and I'm also using a def var here. Should I use something like those global variables library I've been using? I mean, it's good for performance, but Okay, I will think about that later. I would just stick with default def_var. So I would have a variable called something like last cell chunk. Last cell chunk. Yeah, and that would be null by default, and it would be the type of that would be either null or an actual ASC cell chunk. C cell chunk. Yep. All right. Cool. And I would just set the last cell chunk being right to that thing. So last cell chunk to that one. Okay, cool. So now I have the last cell chunk. And in that place I can actually read this. So I would first of all check if that's not null. So how do I make it nicely in one expression? Or it should be either or and. Or I will just leave it with if. So if this last cell chunk is not null, then we use its layer ID. So that would be ASC cell chunk layer ID of last cell chunk. In other case, it would be something like 0. Yeah. Are they 0? Oh yeah, they go from 0. So then maybe -1. Yeah, maybe that that makes sense. Does it though? I'm not even seeing any negative. Oh, but I have some negative number here. Okay, let's have it at -1. Right. So, oh, was that? Layer ID is not unknown. Okay, I would just have to recompile that, recklessly continue, yeah, and then compile that. Okay, cool. So okay, because of this structure fiddling, I think I should restart the whole Lisp image again. And yeah, this time this should work. Okay, to see if that works, I will also print all of those stuff here. So cell ID. Okay, and also, oh, how, what, why? Weird. Okay, some indentation business. So layer ID would be SE user data chunk. Wait, what? SE user data chunk layer ID. Yeah, right, that one of chunk. And I will just print that. And am I? Yeah, I'm inside of let, so I can do that. Or even format. So cell ID, something like that, and layer ID that, and also text. Yeah, and then I would just test it on some of the sprites. So just the text and a new line. So cell ID, then layer ID. Maybe I should do that in reverse. So first would go layer ID, then cell ID. Okay. Layer ID, cell ID, and then the text. Yeah. Right. And that compiles. Okay, cool. So now I would restart that. Quick load the engine. Switch to the package, and yeah. Like change some of these sprites. Yeah, for instance, this one. I'm thinking, how do I do that? Okay, swing. I would just change it to some non-existent sound. So for instance, here we would have sound like dagger swoosh. How do I call that sound for a dagger? Like, it's not actually a swoosh, but yeah, anyway, I don't speak English that well. So dagger swoosh, and this one would be short sword swoosh. Yeah, sound short sword swoosh. Okay, so I'm not really changing the way I'm reading all of those things. I'm just printing what I'm reading from the file. So let's see. Oh no, I forgot to remove that other print. Yeah, please stop. Right, where was I? Yeah, so here is some stray print. Yeah, here. Okay, alrighty. So, would that work again? Yeah, that works. Cool. Okay, so some of those should have this. Yeah, right. Layer ID 5, cell ID 4, sound walk. Yeah, here we go. Here is short sword swoosh and dagger swoosh. And yeah, they have the same cell ID 15, but different layer ID 4 and 5, which is a bit weird. Why they are 4 and 5? It's interesting. Yeah, but anyway, I think it is read correctly. No, wait again. Why? So first would be hat, then cloth, dagger. Weird. That number is suspicious, but okay, let's leave that be. Okay. So the numbers are being read correctly. Now I have to make this data structure I'm using for storage of this data. I have to make it a bit more complex. So let's see, what do we have here? We have an array of hash tables, and in that array every element, every index corresponds to some cell, to some frame, cell in the terminology of ASC Pride. So every element corresponds to some frame, and inside of that value for that array we could have just an empty element, or even nil, or no, it would be just empty hash table. So it would be either empty hash table or hash table containing some of those wonderful properties. Right. So where was I? I would have to make it, like, to add another dimension to that structure, because now I also have layers. I have different things for different layers, and that would prove somehow more difficult. Just a tiny bit. I'm thinking, how would I have the correspondence between all of that stuff and the layer? So let's see, how do I store layers? I have layer names, which is a list, and only that. Weird. Oh yeah, layers. A hash table, layer name a keyword, and AL bitmap. Right, okay, layers. Weird, but I don't have it here somehow. That's weird. I mean, how do I reference these layers? It is just in prefab, and then layers. Weird. Sprite batch. Oh, I think I just build it into the sprite batches. Do I? yeah, I think I should be doing that. Right, I build it into the sprite batches. Okay, right, so I think the data structure ideal for this new data would be just a hash table of which contains SD values, which contains the layer names as the keys, and as the values it would hold the arrays which will correspond to the frames, and the elements of those arrays would be again hash tables. Whoa, that's 3 levels of indirection, which again is not very good for performance, because now every access to or every even reference of the frame property would be at least 3 memory hops, which is not really nice, but what do I do? Right? Yeah, right. I can't really... Yeah. Yeah, it would complicate things a bit, but I think it would be for the better, because now the whole setup would be more flexible. I would have the ability to set some properties for every individual frame, or like for every individual layer, and every layer corresponds to some different weapon or a different armor. So yeah, I guess that's kinda good. I'm sure at some point I will find some usage for those, and also for the properties of the whole layers. Alright, so the only thing is, do I commit this stuff like now, or should I wait for this new system? Yeah, probably I should commit it at once. Yeah, it's not very much of a change here, not really. And yeah, it's practically ready for a commit, but yeah, I want this to work for different layers. Okay, so let's just do that then. You're supposed to layer user data, yeah. Right, so now I do have a layer ID here, and the whole result here, okay, it I think goes into the frame data. So this frame data is somewhere here, I think. Yeah, frame data. Can I have the documentation here in prefabs? Blah blah blah. Slots. Read only slots. Oh, I think I can't have it here. Okay, let's just test it. Documentation. Although I can't see any code about that. There, yeah. Form, destruction bind, unknown keyword documentation, expected one of type or read-only. One of type or read-only, you say. I wonder where does that come from? Read-only. Oh, I think that's just a structure, right? It should be. Prefab. Okay, I'm forgetting again what my own code is doing, which is a bit embarrassing, but I guess that's just fine. So, read-only slots. I mean, where are they even? Prefab. Okay, let's just stop at the fact that I can't have documentation here yet. So maybe I will just leave a comment there. Community to add field documentation. Okay, where was I? So, right, those frame data, I will just move here. So, instead of array of hash table, it would be now, it would be just a hash table. So let me just write a comment first. So it would be a hash table from a layer name, which is again keyword to array of hash tables with properties. And well, obviously this array is like one-to-one with frames. So like frame array, how do I phrase it? Frame array? Array corresponding to each frame. Yeah, something like that. Right, so now it is just a simple hash table. Well, not simple, but still. Yeah, recklessly continue. Damn it. Right. So now I would just have to change this function to return the corresponding data structure. Right, total stance length. So obviously I would also need the layers or layer names, like here. Layer names. So I think those are keywords, right? Position, yeah, they are keywords. Layer names, layer frame data. Okay, so this would go here, and I would also add layer names as the argument here. Yes. Oops. Come on. So here, and also have layer names. Yeah, style warning, because the variable obviously is not used. Okay, now I have a layer names, so I can construct the proper hash table here. And for that, I think I want to use that library with simplified, or rather more convenient creation of hash tables. Yeah, right. So how was that called again? Make hash, I think. Make hash. Yeah, this one. I would have to again open the documentation of that. No, not make hash table, just make hash. That's like the specific library. Damn it. Yeah, make hash. Here it is. Okay. Motivation, blah blah blah. Yes, so it contains like different examples of initialization. So it can copy existing hash table, which I can't use here. Okay, from simple sequences containing keys and values. So the thing is, I have keys at that point, but I don't have... No, I think I even can have values, because the values would be those things, right? Yeah, right. Total stance length. Yeah, I think it is the total length in frames. It should be. Right. From a simple sequences, from separate sequences, table of keys and counts. Keys and counts. Given a sequence of objects, here's a table with unique objects as keys. Yeah, right. Not my case. Build a hash table from selected keys in another associative map or database. No. From repeated calls to a function. Yeah, that more like it. Hash test need format function initial contents. Need data. Transforming a hash built from a sequence of keys and values. Transforming initial contents, flat pairs. No. Transforming an existing hash table or a list. No, not the one, I think. Transforming a key back. What's a key back? A hash recording counts for each key, but filter on some constraints. Contents need data. Need default. You need default. It's interesting. Oh, how do I? Okay, I've pressed the wrong button. Okay, so I would have to experiment, I think. So make hash. Let's say I have some list of layers. I think it's not precisely a list, but rather a vector maybe, but anyway. So let's have it... No, wait a sec. What it actually is? Let's see. What? Yeah, load sprite layer names. Oh, global vector freeze, so that should be vector. Okay, let's go with the vector. So let's define some list of key, no, not key, like layer names, because we'll have those layer names, and that would be vector of some layers, like dagger, sword, clothes, something like that. So that's our layer. No, show me the value, please. Yeah, some layer names. And then I would need the hash. Yeah, make hash with... Yeah, okay, initial contents, init format. Init format. Init data, init default. Initial contents, data, initial contents. Okay, where am I actually using that? Make hash. Size and test. Oh yeah, by the way, I would want the ec as test. But size, make hash. Oh yeah, sprite system. Make hash table. Yeah, I think I'm actually only using that in that very file in sprite system. Okay, make hash test init format keys. Okay, I think that's that. So init format keys, and then initial contents like those layer names, and then init default. Okay, what is init default? Is it some value? Default. Default value to use in indirect initialization when the value of the given key cannot be determined and the particular format supported. Must associate with a specified. The thing is, if I would be using that as the value, it would be put in in every slot of that hash table, which is not what I want. I don't want the same object everywhere. I want just different arrays of different hash tables. In default value used only one if I can initialize the description above in creating hash tables. Can support an extended generic function. Right, select keys and another. In default. So let's see. What if I put here some array? Make array of. Okay, let's look at another. Oh, yeah. Size, initial contents, init data, init format, keychain. Initial contents, layer names. Okay, what is a keychain? Maybe that's better. Keychain, the initial contents should be a sequence of keys, and init data should be a sequence of corresponding values in the same order. Okay, that's that's better. Let's use that. Just initial contents. Yeah, that's some stuff with a function. That's a bit too specific. Format keys, initial contents, default. Okay. So something like that. So instead of keys, I would have keychain. And then initial contents would be layer names, and then the init data. Oh, that would be a bit bigger. That would be something like the list of arrays or something. Yeah, okay. Make array. Now, would list make sense here? Init data. That's hard. Something to clear up my sore throat. Okay, cool. So, maybe an array of arrays would make sense. So, element type, initial element, how do I initial contents? Oh, I'm doing something like that also here in this make array call. I'm just having a list and then I pass this list to initial contents, and yeah, a bit ugly, but I guess it still works. Yeah, but the thing here is I can just go with the list and build it with loop, right? I can just make loop, just repeat how many, yeah, just the length of these layer names, and then just collect this thing. Oops. Yeah, let's just use the empty array here just for a test. Alright, how that will look? No, invalid number of arguments 0. Oh, in call to make array. Okay, make array. What is, oh, dimensions, right. Make array, I don't know, 3. Okay, here we go. So I have a hash table of 3 elements, cloth, dagger and sword. Each element is a vector of 3 elements. And I should make sure they are different arrays. So this has an address ending in 6f. Oops. So 6f, and this ef. Okay, cool. So they are different, and this is 2f. Okay, just awesome. Okay, so I should use something like that here. Make hash with the test of ig, then init format keychain. Maybe I can put it here. Okay, keychain initial contents. Layer names, and then init data is a loop which repeats the it repeats the length of layer names, and it collect this thing. Yeah. Oops. Oof, that's a bit too much. Yeah, so that's quite hairy data structure, but I think it will work just fine. Okay, that's my result. So then I don't need all of those, and yeah, I should set stuff differently into that result here. So aref result cell ID. So first of all, I would have to get hash from result. Sorry, I think that this should go like here. Instead of just a result, it would be get hash from result the key corresponding to layer ID. Oh, layer IDs are integers. Oops. Yeah, really oops. So okay, I think I am having these layer IDs in the proper order. At least I should. Yeah, let's see. How do I load them? For frames, so I go through all of those. Layer names, right? ID, chunk ID. Yeah, I think it should be right. So I can just aref the layer names with that layer ID. Oh, that all is a bit flaky. I would be even amazed if that works. What's wrong with Emacs and indentation today? That's just weird. Alright, so let's compile that. And that compiles without warnings, which is a bit of surprise. Okay, so now this frame data is more complex. So now I would have to reference it differently. So let's find where am I using that frame data. Oh, and again here it should be just a hash table. Alright, frame data. So here I am setting that frame data. Yeah, okay, right. So first of all, here I will just mark it first frame data. Now here. Oops. And here. Non-interruptible. Oh, it's also the same. Yeah, okay. Perhaps I should just replace it with this tiny helper, but in terms of performance it would have some weird stuff going on in this with sprite macro. But still, probably it would read better. Hash non-interruptible. Yeah, okay, anyway. Frame data, so system update, data. Right, so then here I would have to change it, and where else? Oh, that's it. Right. So there are only just a couple of places, really. 3 to be precise. So, first of all, I think I would have to change this to a calling of this helper, because, well, why I would even write it then. So, but again, in terms of performance, let's have a look. Let's crank up optimization a bit, compile that thing, and see at its body. So disassemble stance interruptible p, stance interruptible p. Alright, get hash, blah blah blah. So we have here sprite system, and then we just dive into that. Right, so now let's have a look at initial version of switch stance. Oh, no, switch stance. Right, a bit of a code here, 727 bytes. So let's try and replace that one with this helper. So stance interruptible p. Well, actually not stance interruptible p. Right, over entity. Oops. Yeah, right. No warnings. So let's see at that now. And now it is 665 bytes. That's a bit more. How come? How that happened? Non-interruptible. So here it is. Right, so I can see the identical sequences of instructions. So first we are having a sprite system, then we do some memory hops. Like this and this and then this and then this. Yes. They all are very identical. So this bunch of bytes. Yeah, right. And those, the count of those. Yeah, let's have a look at the first version. Right, so here we start doing this stuff with non-interruptible right away. Right, it takes a bit more, right? So maybe I should leave it at that. So now I'm thinking maybe I should add some tiny helper to get a proper to get some property from that frame data. Which would kinda encapsulate all of the knowledge about this complex structure with user data. So it would basically just replace that aref, blah blah blah. But it also would have... Oh, now another problem. So I'm looking here, for instance, to determine if stance is interruptible. I'm looking at... Well, previously I've been looking at the property non-interruptible. Now I would have... What? I would have this property like for every layer, or should I have it just for one layer? Ooh, yeah, another complication. So to make this work, I would probably go over all of the layers, or at least over all active layers, and try and find that non-interruptible flag. Ooh, yeah. Awkward. A bit awkward. The code becomes more and more awkward with that. Okay, so where am I having this again? Okay, and also the next stance and the last stance. Ooh, that's... Okay, now that's quite ugly. So now to determine next stance, how do I even... Oh, wait a sec. So I have cell properties, and I also have frame properties. Oh, but there's nothing like user data here, it's just the duration. Right. Properties. Alright. The cell properties. Right, awkward. That's quite awkward. Perhaps I should have some of those layers as the main one. And then these properties in this main layer would only be considered here, like in places like this in the code. Yeah, right. But to indicate which layer is main, I would probably have to add some extra property there. And for this, again, I would have to also support properties of the whole layers. So what would that be? Okay, and what was the first option? I already forgot. Yeah, okay, so I can set this like property like next stance, for instance. I could set it like in every cell, which is not very nice. Or I could have some default layer. A default layer then. Right. Or maybe I could have like the 0 layer to be the default. Okay, I should have a look at which I mean to the actual order or to actual frames that are being read. Okay, so where was that? I would have to have a look at which one, the layer chunk. Oh, I'm not looking there. So layer chunk 2004. Oops. Right, this one. So I would just print this thing. Okay, let's just launch game and have a look. Alright, so here they are. 0 health potion, that's obviously a loot. Wait, weird. Oh yeah, okay, so that's for the heroine, I think. Cloth, and then dagger. Oh yeah, head. So 0 is cloth, then 1 is head. I got the head as the different layer, which is weird and weirdly specific, but let's just not focus on that. Right, so 0 is cloth. Right, then to... For some reason I have those again here. Weird. Oh, really weird. Dagger and then body. So those body are just for the mobs. And then this heroine sprite. Okay, that's weird. Oh yeah, this one is for loot. So loot have all of the different layers. Okay, loot is kind of specific case. Let's also have a look at that one. Loot. Right, so in loot I have only one animation sequence idle, which is basically drop-in, and it also has a property of the last stance, so it never changes, or it never begins from its start. It just plays one time and that's it. And I think I also would have this set. I would have to set the sound of drop-in here at the last frame. Okay, but where was I? So I'd have only one animation stance, but it has different layers, and every layer corresponds to a different item. So like we have this one for a health potion, like we can play it, it just drops, yeah, and then we have a dagger, it just also drops, etc. So that's just the pile of stuff on the ground, and it just drops. Right. So if I would have some kind of default layer here, it would be like the health potion or something, and it would determine all of the other, right? Yeah, right. Okay, this probably makes sense, this idea with default layer. So like the 0 layer is default. And then the alternative to that is having properties, having a support for a layer properties, and then having a property of default or something for that layer. So the first one seems a bit simpler to make, but then again I would have to have layer properties at some point. But anyway, right, the default layer. I mean, you can't even see the number of layers in ASE Sprite, can you? 0, here is health potion, and actually in Heroine Sprite 0 layer is cloth, and then 1 is head. Cloth. Where is it? Yeah, so it's basically the last one. The one on the bottom. Can you actually see the number? No, you can't. Discontinuous, prefer individual. Oh, yeah, okay. Function, discontinuous, visible, 0, 0. Yeah, right. So it's just the matter of kinda design decision. Where should those properties which do not belong to a separate layers go? Should they go to like every layer, or should they just... Yeah, and again, there are some properties which are oh, I think I lost the thought here. Yeah, there are properties that do not make much sense for a like specific layer. They're kinda specific to animation itself. For instance, like this next stance or last stance. So where should they go? Yeah, man, design decisions are hard. So I probably should think from a perspective of someone that's editing these files, these sprites. So having the properties set for only one layer would be weird. But then again, copying all of that stuff in every field is also awkward, and it also will make a code more awkward, because I would have to go to every layer or something. Yeah, okay, so let's just set it for the very first cell, right? So, okay, where was that? So, daggers, whoosh. I mean, where was that next stance or something? Let's just have a look. Yeah, death. So for death, the last frame. Oh, the last frame actually here should have a property of the last stance set to true. Oh yeah, I should look here. Yeah, and it has non-interruptible and last stance here and also here. So yeah, I just resorted to copying. So instead of doing that shit, I could just have it on only this layer, which would be kind of the default, because it is, well, first one. So now I should kinda move that to the code and to like solidify this idea in the code. Yeah, right. Stance interruptible. Yeah, so first of all, I think I should have a helper for those things. Should it be internal like this one? I think I have some helper to get a property. Interesting. This property, deployment properties. Oh, weird. Am I accessing frame data anywhere, like directly? No, I don't think I do. Okay, nice. So, yeah, a helper. I would need to have a helper. Toggle where? Oh, yeah, probably somewhere in this region. So this would be something like frame property. Right. So, should I pass the entity here or just a frame? Yeah, I probably should pass just a frame and layer. Or maybe I should even have the external function to get those things. I mean, to get properties. And the internal one would be just yeah, tricky. That all is tricky. Okay, I will just not look into the future and start with what I need right now. So right now I need a helper which would take a frame number and then a layer keyword, and then a property name. Okay, let me just have a look again on those situations. Yeah, frame data. Oh, but I also need a frame data, right? Maybe I could even pass. Okay, so maybe just write a frame data here. Frame where and frame data. Right. And then layer could be nil. That's the idea. So if it is nil, I'm just getting the thing for default one. Oh, I can't have the... Okay, so that's a lot of data. I can probably just get it directly from like from component itself. But is this frame always the actual current frame? Where's those things? Frame, yeah, it is. It's always the current actual frame. Okay. So I could replace all of those things with just a property name. Or, well, first the entity, then the property name, and then the layer of interest, right? Yeah, I think so. Layer. And then the layer could be nil. So, well, how that will look? It will look something like that. Frame property of some entity, and then layer could be like nil. I'm just thinking how to organize the element list a bit nicer. So it could have keyword arguments or optional ones. Frame property. So I'm thinking between optional and keyword ones. Frame property. entity. And is it a frame property per se? Yeah, I think it is. So yeah, right. Frame property. Okay, so it's either that, like property name, something like next stance, or it is some specific for some specific layer. So entity and like sound and then layer. And this, by the way, should be looping through all of the currently active layers to play the corresponding sounds. Ooh, that becomes a bit tricky. So yeah, right. Frame property, entity, sound, and then layer. Or it could be a constant, something like close. I think I would rather go with a keyword. Layer, close, or just layer. Yeah, that's a bit nicer. So key layer nil, or just it's nil by default. Right, I think that's that. Yeah, okay, that will do. So so first of all with sprite, with sprite entity with default bindings. So in this sprite we would access frame data. Yeah, right, so then the layer. So if that layer is set, if layer, okay, I just need to concentrate. Yeah, I think it should be all, I mean, it could be inline expression, one big nice hacky expression. So this frame data is hash table, so I should get hash it with a key. So key is the stuff here. So if layer is set, it is just a layer. If layer load, and then if it's not set, then we should get, I think, the first. Oh, wait a sec. So where are? Yeah, right. Layer names. So just the first of those, right? Could I use car here? Yeah, car. Awesome. Or just first. I think that's just the alias for car. Yeah, right. So first of layer names. So that's the layer we are accessing in frame data, and that's our what's that? That's the array. So now we should have a ref of that thing, and we should access it by the index of frame, which should be fixed num. Is it a fixed num frame? Yeah, fixed num. And then after we got the hash table containing properties, now we could get hash from that. Get hash by the key of the property name we've been asked. Property name. And also, yeah, so the default is nil, right? I mean, is it? it is null by default. Right, get hash property name ref frame and then this get hash. Okay. Right, so this looks weird, but I guess that's that. So I obviously should make that inline. Property, and then the type. So it will be function taking fx num as an entity, and then a keyword as the property name, and then the okay, how do I define keyword arguments here? I always forget. Type macro. So list blah blah blah. Nope. Function cl function. I'm not sure. No, not that. And not that. Oops. This one? No. Right. Okay. Let me just quickly search for an F type. I kinda always forget the syntax for setting the keywords here in F type. And for other different types of arguments. F type. So I'm not really seeing. Oh yeah, rest. So can I just go with key? Oh yeah, here we go. I always remembered that that is a bit awkward, so it should go as key and then in parentheses the name with a colon, which is layer in my case, and then the type, which should be either nil or a keyword. Damn it, keyword. I mean, is it like nil by default? Damn it, I always forget in the things. So like K and then KG. So we test like 1 and 2. Oh, nope. Okay, so just with one, yeah, one nil. Okay. Right. So this function would be returning, well, anything really. Yeah, just about anything. So let's just not specify that, and then yeah, F type that frame property. So that all has been examples. Right. Oops, what? Why? Derived type of global letter ref spread from data object as value simple array hash table. Oh yeah, but that's not simple array of hash table. That's the thing. Okay, where is it coming from, the simple array of hash table? Simple array of yeah, I'm not even having it here. Okay, I think I should restart my LISP image to take everything, every new types into account. Alright, so it compiled, which is a good thing. Good thing, right? Yeah, right, it compiles. Okay. I'm just wondering how that is looking in terms of optimization. So let's. Oh yeah, unable to runtime dispatch on rate. On the tab, the first argument is a vector. Not. Wait, what is happening here? Oh, but I actually know that this thing coming out from this hash table is a simple array. right? Because wait a second, let's have the type exactly. So names, length, directions, sprite layers, yeah, sprite frame data. So it is actually this thing, but instead of this, let's have some numbers. So, oh, wait, total, oh yeah, right, something like that. Wait, what? Okay. Gray, yeah, right, wait, why it is why the count is 0? Gray, type hash table, make hash, oh, loop, make hash, collect, yeah, make array, I only need this one, make array of a hash table. Right, so what is the type of this thing? Simple vector of 4. Right, so ref, yeah. So here I could use something like the simple vector. This one, and then wait a sec. Right, something like that. Okay, no warnings now. So let's have a look at its disassembly. Frame property. Just a quick peek, and yeah, that's sufficiently small and nice. Okay, cool. So now I can use that in all of those places I've marked with 3 axes. The only thing to add here is a docstring. Should I add the docstring here? I mean, would I be exporting that? Probably I would. So let's just add it here. Okay. So what does it do? It returns property frame, the current frames property of the sprite entity, sprite component of entity within the layer, or the default layer if not specified. Blah 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 blah, default layer returns null if no such property exists, and by such I mean property name. So returns confirm property called property name of sprite component of entity within the layer or the default layer. So specified. Returns current frames property of a sprite component. Okay, current frames property of. Okay, my wording is just awful, but let's leave it be. Okay, that's that. So let's tweak all of those things. Okay, so here sound, yeah, that's a tricky case. I will get back to that later. So okay, this one. So it would just go like that. Frame property. Okay, why Emacs is not showing me the arguments? Stop being weird, Emacs. Property. Weird, just weird. Okay, entity property name and layer. So entity property name and layer. And layer is default. So I can, okay, I need to logically negate this, not non-interruptible. And that's that. I think I can even remove that macro and this. Yeah, okay, cool. Right, it compiles. Not frame property, entity, non-interruptible. Right, cool. It even reads a bit better, which is nice. It's always nice to make code a bit more understandable. Okay, so let's now go to that case. And now here actually I think I might have lost this a little performance boost caused by direct usage of this hash table. So I think as well I could just use stance interruptible p helper here, because basically right now, yeah, at any rate I would be using with sprite here. So yeah, stance interruptible p, so not stance interruptible. Stance interruptible p of an entity. Oops, extra parenthesis, so yeah, here we go. Wait, what? Entity and new stance. What is happening? Delete an unreachable code. How it is unreachable? The ref type of ref spectrum data object index is hash table configured with its asserted type vector. How is that vector? Okay, let's comment that form. Oh, why does not? Okay, weird. It's just weird. Okay, I haven't been really touching anything. Switch stance. Okay, let's go back to that. Oh, it's still using a mid-frame sound, which is this, yeah, like this previous version. Okay, I will get back to that in a bit. Yeah, I think that's the only two places in the code left. Okay, so this one, this data, values, weird, why values? Right, get hash, next stance and last stance. So yeah, here I would have some extra performance overhead by going 2 times into that structure. So can I make it like plural? Can I make it go and get just several properties? I think I actually can by using multiple values. By using multiple values here, and then by returning multiple values. Yeah, okay, I will think about that later. Is by having property name as multiple values plus returning multiple values. Right, so where was that? Yeah, data. So instead of all of this stuff, I would just have next stance as frame property of an entity. Damn it, why Emacs is so stubborn? entity of next stance. So the layer should be the default here. Yeah, right. And the same goes for last stance. Right, so I think that's it. That's it for this one. No, wait, why? How? Oh yeah, I think that's again because of emit frame sound. Yeah, so that's the last thing to change here, and yeah, that's tricky because I would have to emit all of the sounds for every layer active. Right. So I would have to just loop over all of the layers. Right, so let's see, how do I store those? Layers, I mean the active layers, how do I... Yeah, layers toggled. So it's a hash table, right. Okay, so I would have to loop over that hash table, of which I always forget the syntax. So LISP loop iteration mapping. I always refer to that page from LISP cookbook. So where was that? Looping over a hash table. So here I think I want both keys and values. So yeah, or key value pairs. Right, so loop for layer being the hash key using hash value v of h. So the h is layers toggled, and then instead of v, that would be, what would that be? Layers toggled, boolean. Yeah, okay. Toggled. So just use keywords here. Hash value using toggled of, oops, nope, of layers toggled. So when toggled, do. So what do we do then? And then we do basically the same stuff. We see if there is a sound with one let, so when sound, which should be equal to frame property of, damn it, entity. So the entity, and then property name. So property name would be sound, and then the layer. Which would be, well, the layer. Right, so when we do have this sound, we make a corresponding sound component. Just like that. So I think that's pretty much it. Mostly. And it compiles without warnings. Okay, cool. So I think there were some other places which were using switch stance or something. Okay, I'm too lazy to manually recompile all of that stuff. I will just restart my Lisp again. Okay. Quick load the engine again, and then in the package we go, and we go the demo. Oh, I probably should erase this debug printing. Let me just quickly go and do that. Yep, here we go. Right, so let's hear for the sound if that still works. So the attack sound. Yeah, here we go. But the footsteps seem to be missing. Oh, I think that's because I've set this in the wrong place here, so I think I've set this, yeah, for a dagger, and then it is not set, yeah, here. So let's move it from a dagger to the place where it belongs. I mean, have it, yeah, okay. So cloth. Yep, here we go. So now this should work correctly. I mean the footstep sounds. Yep, that works. Okay, cool. So now I have this system more flexible. I can have different, for instance, I can have different swoosh sounds for different weapons, and I could even have the sound of like metal clanking when the player character have some shield equipped, or some like big armor or something. So yeah, that will work just nicely. Yeah, and I think it is probably even more or less ready to commit, but I will have to tweak all of the sprite files to make use of that new system, obviously. So yeah, I think I will make a tiny minor release on the next week with these sound changes, and then perhaps I would work on the idea of having like a map of different interactions. So like, for instance, the sound of a dagger hitting something is quite different from a sound of a great sword hitting something. And by the way, it's also a problem when, for instance, this thing starts the attack and then I ran away, and then we still hear a sound of the attack, which we shouldn't. So that's also a bit of a ideological bug. I think I should remove all of those attack sounds from there and use this new impact system, which I will also design later. So yeah, I think that's all for today's stream. Yeah, I think I will continue working on sounds on the next one, in next Saturday. So yeah, thanks for watching, take care and goodbye.